Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I hope you're all well and healthy and happy. I'm so grateful to have you back, and particularly welcome to my new subscribers and all of those who had been following me for the past few months. I truly appreciate your loyalty. I appreciate your thumbs up below the videos, your comments, and your email. Keep them coming. Anyway, today, as expected, I'm sure, I'm just going to have a chat, and I'm not going to do a major investigative commentary. We're just going to have a chat to start off our week. As you all probably know by now, Lady C made a huge discovery, and that was the change to Archie's birth certificate, whereby Harry's name, they inserted the title Prince, which could have just been an oversight to start off with. But when it comes to the mother, Meghan or Rachel, Meghan was completely taken out. Now the newspapers are saying that it was to annoy William and Catherine, which I don't think is the case, because although Catherine's names are on her children's birth certificates, so are her full titles. So how could removing Rachel Meghan from Archie's birth certificate in any way annoy William and Catherine? Then it's also said that she just wanted to make sure that her full titles took the prime spot, so to speak, that was the most obvious. Well, that could very well be, but she is, after all, still Rachel Meghan, Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex, so what does it matter? Then it said that it was a nod to Diana, because on both her sons' birth certificates, her name does not appear, it just appears as Her Royal Highness the Princess of Wales. So it said that she wanted to emulate Diana. I honestly disagree with all of these assumptions. If I look at the complete story and I look at the whole scenario from day one, from the announcement of the pregnancy to where we are today, and all the speculation and all the things that had been going on, I think that the reason why her name was removed was for legal reasons. I personally think that that's a very good indicator that she is not the real mother. Now, people may differ from me here, but that is what I think. If you have a close bond, or you're just given birth to a baby and the baby is a month old, and you have this close protective bond with your child, why would you want your name removed? Your real name, the name that you were given at birth, the name you carried with you all your life, the name she even got a little fame with. Why would she want that removed? Isn't that who you are, and what one of the things that ties you to your child? Surely it is. So why have that removed? I think it's for legal reasons. I think it's because she is not the real mother. I also think that that's a good indicator that she has no real bond with Archie. I think as far as Meghan is concerned, Archie is part of her job. It's part of being the Duchess of Sussex. It's what she thinks she had to produce to be the Duchess of Sussex and to remain the Duchess of Sussex. I don't think that she sees Archie as Rachel Meghan Markle's child. To her, Archie is just a commodity. Now, a question that I have, they are now in the United States. And in the United States, although a lot of their PR and a lot of their appearances, etc., they are still referred to as the Duke and Duchess. In the United States, those titles are not recognized. So in the United States, legally, Meghan is Rachel Meghan Markle. Or if she wants to go by the surname of Windsor or Wales because she's married to Harry, then so be it. Then documentation needs to be changed to reflect that. But in reality, should she complete any legal documentation in the United States, as far as I know, she will be Rachel Meghan Markle or Rachel Meghan Windsor or Rachel Meghan Wales, and not Her Royal Highness the Duchess of. So my question to you is it then true that in the United States, Archie already does not legally have a mother? Because Rachel Meghan has been deleted from his birth certificate. And what will happen if, for instance, Harry loses his titles or he decides to abdicate, and those titles that she used on the birth certificate is no longer applicable? What then? Does it mean that Archie no longer has a mother? And I'm also wondering whether that is not perhaps part of her game. And I'm also wondering whether perhaps that is not perhaps the reason why the royal family is so hesitant to remove the titles. Because who then will be Archie's legal mother? And that will not only raise more questions amongst us, the people, but it will also raise legal questions, and or perhaps then the birth certificate will have to be changed once again. So I'm not sure about that, and perhaps you guys with a bit more legal background could perhaps answer me on that. As far as I'm concerned, I do believe, however, that she does not have that maternal bond to Archie, that she sees him as part of her job, and that is why she only sees the one side of her persona, the Duchess side of her persona, as being his mother, and not the Rachel Meghan side of her being his mother. And therefore, I believe that she did not give birth to this child and that the mother is somebody else. I think this is just added to all the doubts and things that we already have. Okay, so let's move on. I want to talk to you guys about something else, and I'm going to digress a little. Mr. Birdie. Mr. Birdie. Mr. Birdie. Okay, I want to talk to you guys about something else, and once again, I would love your input on this. And in order to do so, I'm going to digress a little, as I will need your help, opinions, and input. And it's very difficult for me to know exactly where to start with this, but I'm just going to jump in and do it. I have known, or at least watched, Henry since he was a baby. Mr. Birdie. As a huge fan of Diana when I was younger, with our children being more or less the same age, the boys were of particular interest to me. Although many people, including Diana herself, indicated that Harry was not quite as bright as his brother, and we also saw that he did not do quite as well as William at school. You know, we also saw that he was more impulsive than his brother, etc., etc. What I, and I'm sure you all as well, did see, however, was a very athletic and energetic young man. Yes, there were times that we saw him pout and sulk, and we saw him lose his temper, and we saw him misbehave, drinking, partying, etc. But these behaviors may indicate nothing more than him being a spoiled, rich boy, a slightly entitled young man. But I have never seen anything indicating serious mental illness or any sign of brain damage. He said that he had suffered from depression for most of his life, and although depression may be classified a mental illness, the causes of depression is usually hormonal or circumstantial, and seldom caused by a brain injury or damage, although this can occur. I personally know of someone who was in a fairly serious motor car accident and had frontal lobe brain damage as a result, and I also know that she has serious mood swings, and I have seen her act out as a result of that. Anyway, we do not, however, know of any major accident or injury Harry could have suffered that was severe enough to cause brain damage. And I'm asking you just to be patient and hear me out, because I'm actually getting to a point at some point. Okay, so now I'm going to digress a little and tell you a personal story. And the reason why I've been studying posture, gait, and body language and how it relates to mental illness, brain damage, etc. Many years ago, I was engaged to the most wonderful, intelligent, and artistic man, or for that matter, human being I have ever met. For the first time in my life, I was with someone whom I respected for his intellect. It sounds wonderful, doesn't it? It could have been, except for one thing. He was schizophrenic. I'm not going to go into the details of our relationship, but only the medical and physical attributes of someone with mental illness. And then I must also say that I'm not a doctor or a psychiatrist. I'm going to speak from personal experience. My fiancé used medication to counteract his condition. Usually he took his pills in the morning, and then for at least 2 to 3 hours after taking his medication, he would be sluggish. He would hang his head, slouch, and drag or shuffle his feet, would not be interested in much, and would have difficulty in keeping up a conversation. After an hour, 2 or 3, he would be revived. He would again be energetic, either cleaning or working in his studio, working in the garden, reading, or whatever. And something else, he would drink 1 cup of coffee after the other. He would have long and intricate discussions, and life overall would be great. Every few months or so, however, he would get frustrated. We used to get frustrated with his reaction to the medication, and against all advice, stop this medication. And the results would be devastating. It usually depended on the circumstances and the amount of stress or whatever activities he or us were involved in at the time, but within a week or 2 or 3, at the very least a month, he would experience his first schizophrenic episode. But as horrific and sad as these episodes were, and sometimes even downright dangerous, I'm not going to talk about it. What I do want to talk about is something I noticed with my fiancé. Like I mentioned, for the first few hours after taking his medication, his body language, gait, and posture would be very different from the usual. He would be hunched up, hang his head slightly, and shuffle when walking. Once over the initial few hours, he would be up and running again, walking normally, and he had a very typical male gait, larger steps than that of a female, with his arms slightly away from his body. His normal body language portrayed high energy and vitality, what one would expect from someone who was very fit and a physically healthy person. He had an excellent memory and could recall the finer details of books that he read, and he was an excellent conversationalist. All of this may not sound out of the ordinary, and doctors and psychiatrists confirmed this. However, what I found particularly interesting, and what I could find very little information on, were the times when he was off his medication. Eventually, after a period of time, I started to recognize the signs of a potential episode. And not only by what he said or his actions or possible delusions, but long before that, I recognized the signs in his body language. Now remember, at this point, he would be off his medication, so one would not expect that sluggishness and his gait and body language to change, because according to the doctors, that was actually due to the medication. It made him lethargic for a while. However, being off his medication, as soon as he was under stress or had an episode coming, okay, I would recognize that his body language changed, and that although not as severe as when he's using his medication, it also changed into him being different physically. Again, I would see his shoulders sag and hang a little. I would see his back slightly arched. And although he was still, during those periods, acting normally, speaking normally, working, etc., there would be a change in the way he walked. He would walk slower, and there would be a slight dragging of his feet. It became, the more I noticed it, the more obvious it became. And I would then know that he would have an episode very soon, and in a way prepare for it. Although it's something very difficult to prepare for, because one wouldn't know what shape or form it would take, or what he would be delusional about, etc. And that is what I found very interesting, was the fact that I could recognize an episode coming for at least, I would say, a day to 2-3 days before it actually happened, just by watching his body language. And the reason why I'm mentioning something so private and personal is because I have noticed something with regards to Harry. As a young man, and before he went to the United States, Harry appeared to be very high energy. He had a very proud and manly gait. He had overall a very positive body language, very confident. Yes, there were the times when he was either sulking or angry, but that aside, overall, he sort of oozed confidence and energy. However, since he had moved to the United States, I have noticed in some of their videos, their Zoom calls, etc., and photographs, that there are times when his whole gait, his body language is very different. And the difference is not the sulky Harry we've seen before, or the angry Harry we've seen before. No, it's a low energy Harry, which we have not seen before. I'm going to point out two particular instances where I noticed that. The one, I can't remember what they were talking about, and I'm too lazy to actually go back and go and have a look. But the one instance was when they were both sitting on that little bench, and I'm actually posting a photograph here. Harry's body language was not of the royal Harry we knew. He was slouched in the seat. He looked disinterested. He looked low energy. It just wasn't the Harry we knew. The other instance that stood out to me in particular was the pack walk or their visit to that cemetery. There was a short, I think it was a short video, but even looking at the photographs alone, it does appear, when you look at Harry's body language and you compare it to other photographs of him, it does appear as if Harry was slouching a little. It does appear as if he was shuffling his feet a little. And then looking at his face, I zoomed in a bit and so on. To me, and I'm not saying I'm right, but to me, he looked slightly out of it. It looked as if he had just taken some drug. And I'm not pointing fingers and I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but I am wondering whether Harry had changed his medication since he went to the United States. I have been on antidepressants on and off for a large portion of my life, and I cannot remember any of the medications I took changing my body language or my gait. Yes, initially starting on a new medication, one may feel slightly sluggish, but it passes or you go on to something else which is more suitable. And I can honestly not say that it's ever changed my body language, my gait, or my posture. If Harry is on new medication, why is it changing his posture, gait, and body language? So I'm honestly rather worried about that, and I wonder whether indeed he did change his medication once he left Britain. And if so, what medication is he on at the moment? Or, I don't know whether you guys remember this, but there was a time when it was said that Harry had stopped his medication for depression and that Doria and or Megan had helped him with a more holistic approach. So if that is the case, what is he taking now? We also know that when someone takes 1 or 2 drinks too many, I'm talking about alcohol now, that their body language, gait and posture changes. So that could also be a possibility. Is Harry indulging a bit too much while in the United States? Is he drinking a bit more than he usually did? I'm just wondering, and I would like you guys to, if you have the time, to have a look at some of the photographs and Zoom calls that they've done while in the United States, and to give me your opinion in this regard. As I said, it's just my opinion, and I'm just curious, and I just want to make sure that I'm not imagining things. Okay, folks. This is me for today. I'll be back later in the week with some more deep dives and some more investigations. And I'm sincerely hoping to see you all back there on the next video again. So until then, from me, it is just bye.